Hello, today I want to show you how to do colourworks and twisting your different coloured yarn together while you're knitting. And this method is an alternate method of having long floats at the back of your work. I prefer this because it creates more flexibility in the work if I am at the risk of having those long floats. And it also creates less raised stitches in my work, so it's a flat, even work. At the back here, you can see that the two different colours have been twisted together while I've been knitting. They kind of loop around each other when I'm knitting, and doing that creates for more ability to stretch out. There's no long pieces of yarn that's preventing that flexibility. And also, if you want to knit hats and socks or sweaters, these long pieces of yarn can snag as you're putting on the articles of clothing. But doing this, you can weave in those colours while you're knitting. You don't have to weave in the floats after you are done. So first, I'm going to show you how to do it using the red color here, and the red is at the back here, which is a point I want to make. When the color you are knitting is at the back, it's easier. So first I'm going to go above the white yarn, pick up the red one and knit it. So it's very much like a normal stitch. Now the second one, I'm going to have to twist these two yarns together. To do that, I'm going to have to go under the white colored yarn. So pick up the stitch, go under the white one, pick up the red yarn and knit it. Here you can see that the different colored yarns are twisted together in the back. So now I'm going to do a normal stitch once more with the red one, and then I'm going to go under. So every alternating stitch you go above and under the white colored yarn, and at the back here you can see that the white one follows the red one. It's knitted, it's twisted into the back of the stitches here. Now, a point to make is that I don't want to have too tight of a tension on the white colored yarn, the one that I'm not knitting, because I want that long pieces of yarn at the back here. When the white one is looping around and it's not in a straight line, it's going to create more yarn to stretch out, so it's going to retain more flexibility than if you're tightening it. Now I'm going to knit the white colored yarn at the front here, and it's the same principle. You want to twist the two different colored yarns together, but it's slightly more difficult when the yarn is at the front. So first a normal stitch. And the second one you want to make is you want to go around the red one. So I like to push the red one slightly to the front. I go under it, pick up the white colored yarn and knit like normal. And you can see here that the yarns are twisted together. So once more, a normal stitch. Then I'm going to go under the red colored yarn, pick up the white one and knit like normal. One of the drawbacks of doing this method is that you're knitting a color into the different stitches, and doing so can make the different colors poke up at the front here. A way to fix that is to tug slightly at the yarn in the back, but again you want to be careful that you're not tugging too much so as to straightening out this piece of yarn and therefore losing some of that flexibility that you want. Now if you're doing circular works, this method is probably all that you need. But I'm going to show you how to do purling as well, which is not as simple, but the principle is the same. You want to twist these yarns together. Now first, I'm going to show you how to do it. Wait, let me just do one more stitch. Or there was going to be a hole there, and I don't want that. I'm going to show you how to do the red one, and when you're purling, it's easier to do the colored yarn that is closer to you. So first, you just want to knit like normal. I'm going under the white colored yarn here when I'm picking up the red one. It's very much like a normal purl. The second one, I'm going to have to go above the white one. Pick up the red colored yarn and go under. Here, when you're picking up above the white one, it's easy to do this way. It's a mistake and not go this way on the yarn. But if you're going this way, you're going to twist your stitches, which is not going to look too good. So be aware of that you know what you're doing when purling these stitches. The second stitch I'm going to make is I'm going to purl the white one, which is the most difficult stitch to do when using this method. So first is the easier one. I'm going under the red colored yarn and then just purling. A very normal stitch. The second one, I'm going to have to go above the red one, and that's going to require my knitting needle to travel a bit far. So above here, and again, it's easy to go from the wrong angle on the white one. You don't want to do that. I'm going to do a normal purl stitch, picking up the white one and purling it like that. Sometimes you can see here if the stitch is right, if it's not twisted, and if you're doing it right. Using this method, especially in the beginning, it's a good idea to just keep attention. Don't watch too many TV shows while you're knitting right at the beginning before you get the hang of it. Right. So at the front here, you can see that the stitches look good. There is nothing major going on at the back here. It's controlled knitting and there's no long floats at the back. Right. So the next part is just me talking about different hints and things I've noticed when doing this method. But if you're not interested in that, happy knitting and thank you for watching so far. But the next part I want to show you is again this one, and I want to talk about how often you twist your stitches. Because when you're twisting your stitches, there is the danger of the different color yarn poking through. I've talked about that before. Here is an example of that. You can see the red colored yarn is poking through at the back, and that's not too nice to look at. So really what you want to do when using this method is you want to do it as seldom as possible while still retaining that smooth look and that flexibility. So what I've been showing you so far is how you knit on every stitch, but you might not want to do that. You might want to twist your stitches more seldom. So at the back here you can see a few of those longer floats where I haven't been twisting every single stitch. And having few of those floats isn't really a big issue. It's a bit of a subjective thing, an individual thing about how your own tension is in your work. So figuring out how often you're going to twist your stitches is experimentation, really. For me, I like to twist my stitches if I'm doing 3 or more stitches in a single color. But I know a lot of people that like to twist more seldom than that. So this is normal knitted single colored yarn, and you can see that it's flexible. This is the twisted 2 colored yarn pieces, and it also retains some of that flexibility. It's not as flexible as the single pieces of yarn, single colored yarn. And that's something that's really hard to do, to create the same amount of flexibility. So the goal of this method is to just retain the flexibility as much as possible. And at the back here you can see that it's twisted, but it's not twisted on every turn. You can see some longer floats going down here. Last, I want to talk about the difficulty of twisting when doing different types of colored work, and this piece is a good example of different types of colored works. This line here, this row, is just 2 different colors knitted every alternated stitch, and that's really simple to do. You don't have to think about flexibility at all. You just knit like you would normal, and you won't get those large floats at all. So that's a simple way of knitting, of getting that flexibility. Inside here, you can see there's a few longer rows of a single color, and you might not need to twist your stitches doing this, but sometimes you might have to, depending on your own tension when you're working. But you don't have to twist as much, and it's going to be a bit easier. These long rows right here, however, really long stretches of a single color, those are difficult to do well, and you're gonna have to want to twist your stitches here more than once on this long row. So when you're choosing a color work as well, keep this in mind. If you're a beginner, I would choose for a more intricate pattern, something that changes colors a lot, as that's going to be easier to retain that flexibility. If you're more advanced, then you can start working with those long stretches of a single colored work. Of course, if there's some unevenness, blocking can solve some of the issue, but when you're knitting, you want to create it as even as possible to get the best finished result. Thank you all for watching. I hope I explained it well.